Hello everyone, this is James. It's been a long time since I've made a video, and an even longer time since I made one about GRPGA. So pardon the disjointed manner of this thing. Anyway, I'm going to try and make a few videos that are going to highlight how to use it, and at the same time they're going to highlight things that I've left aside as I've progressed and worked on other systems. I tried to keep this one up, but I fail. Anyway, so we'll identify a few things along the way that need updating or fixing, and I'll see if I can't find the time to do it. So on with this one though. Just join. First time you log into GRPGA, you're going to get this. This look, which is the Foundry invite to the system, which everyone should be familiar with. The first thing to deal with GRPGA is the system settings, because it's a generic system and because it's an unusual one in that it's almost completely item based, as in even your primary attributes aren't hard-coded. You have to build everything, so you can build anything pretty much. That's not quite true, because the dice mechanics at the moment are still pretty much fixed to a certain range that I've added manually from time to time. That's one of the things that I'm planning to change about it and update, so that you can, in the system settings, define what dice mechanics, general dice mechanics you're going to use, whether it's over, under, and that sort of stuff. Anyway, configuring settings. First thing you're going to do is see this. Right. So the rule sets that are available are a very old one. In fact, that's what this GRPGA is actually based on, is this rule set, because I used it for GURPS, and if you ever look at the code you'll see exactly what I mean, because all the terms under the hood are GURPS terms, which have been adapted for everything else that I've added since. Anyway, so a 3d6 rule set like GURPS, which is 3d6 roll under. We're not going to get into any of these details. I'm just outlining how you go about selecting your system settings. Heroic is a game made by a friend that is a MSH, Marvel Superheroes. I don't know if Reboot is the right name, but it's a modern version of Marvel Superheroes that he has had on Kickstarter and is working hard to produce. A flexible D6 rule set is probably when we forayed into Mini-6. So it does dice and pips and that sort of thing. It could probably use a little bit of tweaking, but you could do the old Star Wars role-playing game with that and that sort of thing, because it's tunable. You can define what the attributes are and the skills are and all of that stuff, so you could play whichever one you wanted. The only thing is that the dice are set for Mini-6 rules, which might not match up with the older or larger, more popular D6 rule sets. Open-ended D100 rule set is pretty much targeted at Iron Crown Enterprises products, and it was derived when somebody asked me to create. Actually, I think I built it for Rollmaster, or MERP, but somebody asked me to make Against the Dark Master, which is a derivative of MERP, a modern derivative of MERP. I ended up building a complete system for Against the Dark Master, which is available through the Foundry kit shop, not kit shop, army term. There's a premium module for Against the Dark Master in addition to the system. And I made those, so please do go ahead and buy them if you like. If you want to play a game that's like Rollmaster but it's fully featured, then that would be a good one. Mutants and Masterminds, that's for 3rd edition. Somebody asked if I could tune that up, and that person helped build the thing, so a lot of it is a little bit flashy. Most of my stuff isn't. It's just functional. But some people have tuned that and like it. There's another project out there for Foundry that is directly dedicated to Mutants and Masterminds 3E, and it's probably better if you want to play vanilla Mutants and Masterminds. If you want to hack it, though, then this might be the thing you're looking for. Regardless, if you pick one of these rule sets and you're finding that it doesn't quite do what you're looking for, by all means contact me on my own Discord server. And if you found this, then you've probably found my Discord server. Anyway, and I'll try to respond to any requests. So the one that we're really interested in, though, is Palladium games. A friend, Lehman, asked me to do this so he could play his heavily hacked version of Palladium Fantasy First Edition that he basically rewrote the whole book. And he's been playing it for years, quite happily. And some people have been playing Rifts and a number of other versions of Palladium games. So this I call the D120 rule set underneath. So I think if you're building actors, for example, create actor. No, it's not going to do that. Good enough. Worry about that later. Anyway, D120, and the reason for that is because Palladium Fantasy, at least, or maybe it was After the Bomb or something like that, that uses percentile and D20 rolls for various things. So I just called it D120, so it wasn't D20 and it wasn't D100, because it uses both. Anyway, so what I did was, because it uses the most common kinds of rules, D20 roll over or percentile, the D100 roll under, I use that as the basis for hijacks, I call them, which is using that rule set, tweaking the rules just a smidge so that they work for your own game. And these are the options at the moment. Palladium for Shadowrun 4E, because that's a D6 pool system that has Edge and Rushed, I think, along with glitches. Yeah, you build your attributes and their numbers, and when you roll them, they add up the pools of dice and roll those. And it also deals with Shadowrun 4E initiative and so on, so that's all right. Palladium for Prowlers and Paragons, I don't recall. I think it's a 2d6 system, but I'm not certain. Actually, no. It is a d6 pool system that gives you, I think it's a success on a 4 and a 5, and 2 successes on 6s. And that's the difference between it and Shadowrun. Shadowrun is, I think it's just 4, 5s, and 6s are successes. 1 success each, and this one gives you 2 successes on 6s. So let's look at the other ones where it says use Palladium 4. Novus 2E was a 2d10 system with some specific rules that my group tried to play for a while. And then I got distracted building my own game based on it. So I haven't done any work on that in a little while, a couple of years. D20 games. Yeah, this is the one most people are probably interested in. If you're looking for a D20 game like D&D, then this is the rule set you'd pick. Alternity, a very old game based on some novels, Star Drive or Alternity Star Drive. It has a step system for successes that's built in. Swap the D20s for percentile. You've got something like Call of Cthulhu or whatever that's a percentile system, then you'd want to choose this one. Then we have Traveler, that sort of thing. 2d6 roll over. They're roll over unless they specify otherwise, really. 3d6. This is a 3d6 roll over, I believe. Yeah, roll over. So like the ops and tactics system, which instead of a d20 you roll 3d6 roll over. Then you've got a d10 system, and I can't remember what that one was. But somebody asked for it, so I added that. D10 interlock system. Somebody asked for this one recently. So that's for Mecton Zeta? Something along those lines. It's called the interlock system, with a strange version of open-ended where dice can explode upwards infinitely but down only once. And then we have 2d10, which is different from Novus. I'm not sure exactly how, but 2d10's the way that one works. And those are the options at the moment. Okay, status effects. These are things that I can't show you right now because I don't have a scene. But there, when you right-click on a token, and I'm going to have to show you. So let's just build a scene. Create a scene. We'll just call it landing. And we'll use the default. And then we'll just create an actor, and we will call him Fred. It's my usual guy. And this is Palladium for Palladium because I haven't changed anything, so everything's going to be set up that way. But that's not the important bit. I want to drag him on here so you can see what I'm talking about. Also, in order to see the second column, you had to create a scene so that these things show up, and that means that this one shows up, which is important. So, assign status effects. Those are the ones, and they're all GURPS based, that come up. Those prepared for the rule set. If you click over here, you see the same set. The difference between this one and these ones is this one you have to click on each token individually and assign the effect to them. We're going to have to zoom in so you can see what the heck I just did, but he's at minus X HP 2, so probably minus 2X HP. Yeah, that's definitely a GURPS thing. Anyway, with him selected, I can hit here and toggle it off. The difference is that over here, I can select multiple tokens and toggle whichever one of these effects you want. So handy for GMs. That's all it does. Toggles them on and off. It doesn't do the if you right click it so that it's the big one in the middle, turn it off, you left click it so it's the little one in the corner. It doesn't do any of that stuff. It just puts them in the corner. Alrighty. So, if you know what these are, then you know what you're doing. So Marvel Multiverse, that's probably using the 3d6. You'd have to use the 3d6 to do the Marvel Multiverse, and that'll be the D616 changes. So it'll roll the 616 dice the way they were from the playtest that was published in PDF, because I don't know if they still have. I don't know if they have made that available in PDF for their published game or not. Sine Nomine extension. This augments 2d6s for things like Godbound, and I think Worlds Without Number, Stars Without Number, that sort of thing. Alrighty. this, you will need to get into the compendia, the role tables. Okay. So, a stat or attribute bonus role table. So, I'll just show you what I mean. There's the one for D&D. And you can recognize 10 to 11 has a bonus of 0. 8 and 9 has a bonus of -1, all the way to the normal. Let's say 18 and 19 is a bonus of 4. 20 it requires to get to a bonus of 5, and so on. This would be your standard D&D bonus model. So if it's predictable, unlike in Palladium games, which has a different bonus set for each attribute, so if it's the same for all attributes, then you can take advantage of something like this to define the bonuses. And that means that when you refer to a stat as a in a stat in a reference, then what it will actually fetch is the bonus provided by that stat. You have to be fairly explicit if you want to change the value of that stat itself, rather than simply the bonus. It does simplify things like bonuses, applying bonuses to things, because then you don't have to create a whole new set of items that represent the bonuses. There are a bunch of things that you don't have to do if you use these. Rolemaster Unified bonus set. That's a percentile one. Runs from +15 at 100 to -15 at 1. And where's the middle? 48 to 53? Sure. I did one for RMFRP because that one's different. Where's 0? 31 to 69. Yeah, we're getting into old school Rolemaster. Worlds Without Number, their bonus set is fairly small, from -2 to +2. Very easy to define your own. You just create a role table, define the ranges, and put the name in. Sorry, you need to actually copy it. So where are we? Role tables. There. So let's say we're playing D&D. We copy that over there. So if we're playing D&D, then we will have done that. Prepared for the rule set, that's fine. If we're playing D&D, then we might want to go for the Foundry default effects, and I'll show those in a minute. But what we want to do is take that, and to avoid typos, we just copy that and paste it there. So what this is going to do, if that's blank, then it doesn't go looking for one. If it's got a name in it, then it goes looking here for that name, and then uses whatever model is in that for the bonuses. Step formula role table name. Well, I did that one recently because Earth Dawn doesn't give bonuses to the dice themselves. It gives step bonuses to determine what dice are going to be rolled. And here's the set for Earth Dawn. Same thing applies. If you're going to use a step formula roll table, then drag it over, put the names in, put the name in, and carry on. Okay, this one here, I have a number of macros, and I'm going to have to do something different here. So I'm going to grab an actor. I'm going to grab the Palladium template actor. I'm going to import him. And then I'm going to drag him onto the map. Then I'm going to grab the macros, actually just right-click them, and import them all. Yeah, nah, you don't need to keep them. I do, because I upload them from there too. So, and I'm looking at those, and some of those are old. But anyway, then you look for them in here. You say, I'm going to drag them in. So we'll take the attack rolls. Now, all these things are is filters for, I call them roll macros. And you have a selected token, do a roll macro, and it looks on that token's actor and comes up with all of the things that you've defined for it to look for. So if I edit this macro, we see a little description of how it works. You do have to know what things are called inside, but this is a little helpful guide. And then what I've said is attack. So if it has attack in the type name, then it will fetch it. If it only fetches one, then it will skip this dialog and go straight to the rolling dialog. Otherwise, let us throw a punch. Very simple, rolling dialog, and there's the I'm going to roll it, and there's I'm going to roll damage for it. Any modifiers for it would come under here. I don't think I have any. What are these modifiers for? We'll go back and we'll choose the thrown rock. There we go. So modifiers will show up like that, and we're going to make a called shot with our thrown rock. Now, did you notice the flicker? I'm going to do it again. What that has done is when I've selected this thing, it closed. Sorry, when I selected the modifier, I toggled it on. It closed that window, waited 500 milliseconds, and reopened it. The reason for that is because when you toggle this on, let's watch down here. It actually affects the item on the actor. So what has to happen is, it has to receive this message, the event trigger here. It has to make the change here, and then rebuild this window, fetching the current data from the character sheet. If you set that 500 milliseconds to a much lower number, say 200 milliseconds, it might refresh this window before the update on the actor is finished, and you'll end up looking at the same number again. So the same value will be there. Whereas there I can see the -3 has changed. What you would see if it was running too fast is it would still show 0 because the called shot hadn't been applied. In fact, the called shot wouldn't be lit up because it hadn't taken into effect yet on the sheet when that was brought up. So 500 milliseconds is a good rule of thumb. With time lag, if you're running on a local machine, then you can probably make it quicker, or if it doesn't bug you, just leave it where it is. We're not rolling stuff here, so we're just showing you stuff. Turn that off. Combat Tracker. Foundry's default, it's based on D&D 5e. You roll initiative, and the highest initiative is at the top. Everybody goes through it once, and then that's the turn that's over, or the round that's over. You end the round, everybody goes back. It goes back to the guy who's at the top of the initiative. Both Palladium and Shadowrun 4e use more or less the same action point system, where you have a number of actions per round. And what it'll do is it'll do the same initiative thing. Guy with the highest initiatives at the top. And you consume an action which subtracts from your action total, and then it goes to the next person, skipping anybody who has no actions left. So even if you have the middle initiative, if you have 2 more actions than everybody else, they'll go through everybody's actions, come back to you to do the final 2 actions at the end of the round. I can't remember exactly how Shadowrun 4e works, but it's functionally the same as that. Don't worry about this. This should be the current version or the last time the system was migrated. Alrighty. Initiative. There are a lot of different versions of this. What do we got? Sort by the highest basic speed, then dex, then random. That's definitely GURPS. Off of, yeah, rules as written. Basic book, page 324. That's definitely GURPS. Another option for GURPS, and a third option for GURPS. Roll d20 plus your initiative value. Roll d20 plus your initiative value plus a random factor. That's usually just to break ties. Kind of a house rule. 2d10 plus initiative. There are a number of systems, including D100 systems that use that. I'll leave those two alone. 3d6 plus initiative plus a percentile tiebreaker. Then we have d10 plus initiative, and these are all rolled on the tracker. The unrolled initiative value. So, whatever the initiative value on your sheet is, and there is a game that supports this, and that's why this rule exists in there, and I don't remember what game it was, but whatever your initiative value is stored on your character sheet, that is the value that will be used for your initiative. That's an edge case for sure. This one is the most common one, which is why I set it as the default, because what it means is if you have an initiative value on your sheet, and you may be able to roll it from here, or you may, let me see, is it a skill or is it a defense? There it is, it's a defense. Or you can roll it from here, or because it's a d20 defense, is that a save? Block. Oh, that's only going to work for blocks that have touch or will. So that's definitely saves. Well, let's take a configurable one down and find out. Okay, well, there's initiative. So, having rolled that on this character sheet, the number 10 is now stored in a variable that's part of the sheet. So that's what we mean by sheet rolled initiative. The main reason for doing that is for something like this. For Pete's sakes. Okay, so I'm going to close that. I'm going to get that out of the way. Why am I not seeing this? There, that's why. So what this one is doing is selecting all the, or identifying all the tokens and their actors. Dodge named initiative. And it's rolling it. So it's finding a dodge item named initiative and rolling it. So I'm not going to close that. I am going to select, I was going to select both of them, but I know that this guy doesn't have one. So let's see what happens. Well, it didn't find one on this guy, so it didn't roll it. But what it does do is, for the GM, it allows that initiative item to be rolled on all selected tokens. So if you like to do an initiative per round, then that's extremely handy. Anyway, so it stores that value on the sheets, and then when you hit next round on the tracker, it pulls those values from the sheets. That's what this setting controls. So it pulls those values from the sheets and uses them as the initiative score rather than rolling in the tracker. Whereas all of these other ones roll in the tracker. So they're not modified by things that modify your initiative. It gets a bit tricky. If there are things that are going to modify your initiative conditionally, then it won't catch those. If they're permanent modifiers to your initiative, yeah, it'll catch those because that's actually changed your modified value for your initiative. It's the things that, oh, I have this thing which applies under these circumstances. You don't want to be going hunting for those. Anyway, that's a tricky edge case anyway. All right, back to the selecting of system settings. And this video is getting an awful lot longer than I thought it was going to be. Primary attribute roles. So in your system, are they even permitted? Use the same role method as defined by the hijack, if there is a hijack. Or are your attribute roles D20 roll under, D30 roll under, or D100 roll under when you're rolling attributes? So there are reasons for making those choices. If your system likes one of those, then choose them. Otherwise, no stat rolls are permitted. Okay, this is based on Palladium. These are the lowercase, let's say slugified, which doesn't allow special characters. It turns everything to lowercase, turns special characters to underscores, and then reduces the underscores to just 1. That's a rough description of what slugifying does. So let's go find ourselves an attribute. There we go. There's an attribute, and you see that his attribute abbreviation is IQ, and it's the first one in the list. Then is physical strength, then physical beauty. You notice that these are not in alphabetical order. They're in the order defined here. They're also not the only primary attribute items on this character sheet. We go to all items and we filter for primary attributes, and actions per round, burst fire, called shot, and I think speed is one. Is there something else? Anyway, those ones are not real primary attributes. What they are is high priority calculation stored values that have a base. They have to be numeric value. Anyway, so they have an abbreviation as well. All primary attributes do, so that you can refer to them. Anyway, you need to create a comma-separated attribute list with using their abbreviations and in the order that you want them to appear here on your character sheet. What that also does is connect, and only those that are listed here will be modified by this. The other attribute, the other primary attributes will just be stored or used as high priority calculation storage mechanisms. So where are we? We're down to here. That is that. These, that label, and that label, the actual text used is governed by this. So if you want to use those slots for something else, then by all means change the label here. Okay. There are things in the system called pools and things in the system called variables. And here are the pools, and here are the variables. Now, in this case, we have hit points is a pool, mega damage capacity is a pool, etc. Inner strength points, all kinds of things like that are pools. Anything that's going to be a resource for these things. Resources. Those are all of the pools that are defined in the system. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. They're all here, and they're all defined by their abbreviations. So primary attributes and pools have abbreviations. Alright, what was my freaking point? Right, sometimes you want to variables are like difficulty levels. Things like that. So if you have a difficulty rating that you want to apply to skills, you set its default to 0, but you don't want it to be here at the bottom of the main page. You want it to be here where you can see it. So you want to have it here when you can see it when you're rolling. So skills, skill variables are here. Spell variables. I'm trying to remember where those are. Well, what I'm going to do is create one. We'll just quickly cover the other two. Defenses are going to show up here by the defenses, and attacks are going to show up down here. So I'm going to quickly create a variable, or find one. Why don't I find one? Item drop box. With advantage. There's a good variable. And I'm going to drag him onto the sheet. Note the name. So, we don't see him anywhere here. We don't see him anywhere here. He is down here though. And he's a drop down. Normal, advantage, disadvantage. And he's selected. No, he's not resetting after every roll. He should be resetting after every roll. Back to normal. Anyway, he is now. So what I'm going to do, all lowercase. I'm just going to quickly save the changes so that we can see where he ends up. I'm trying to remember what other changes I made. Oh yeah. Note that the value for all of these is 0, but the modifier is -5 because I'm using the D&D stat block roll table. Value of 0 equates to -5. So I know that's not for this system, but anyway. Combat with advantage is now here under the values to share, and it's here under the attacks. So that's the defenses, that's the attacks, that's where they'll show up. Let's see where they'll show up here. D100 skills. Notes to chat. Interesting. This one's probably the spare for spells, because in most of these kinds of games, spells are a text-based thing that just sends a description. It doesn't actually do anything. It tells you what you need to do, what the parameters are for a spell, and then you find some other way to make them happen. Like I said, this is an old system, so that's the way I treated those sorts of things. Anyway, so this is probably the spells, and this is the skills. So if you don't need the spells one, and this one is in the middle, so why don't we just leave that one alone? But you're not going to do attacks and defenses. Maybe defenses you'll do with advantage. I suppose attacks you probably could too. I'll leave them alone. But there's no need for two of them on this sheet here. So I'll go back into the configure settings, do this, and remove them from spells. Then I'll save them. And now we only see that one up there. Yeah, the one down here was for spells. Good enough. Let's go back into those system settings and finish them off so we can finish this video. Alright. Strictly for Against the Dark Master, which isn't even part of this system anymore, and D100. Automatically generating the critical roll with every attack roll. Yeah, it's definitely a D100 open-ended thing. Some people like it, so that's the only reason that's still there. Show test data. That is probably for people who are trying to tell me something's gone horribly wrong. And they're trying to figure out as much information as they can to tell me what it was. Show hooks. That's again a debugging tool. Narrative Tools is a module that showed everybody, I think it's for GMs showing content, scrolling content or whatever to their players, and the problem was that it always justified center, so I created a little thing that justified it left. So if you use Narrative Tools and you want it left justified, you check that. Four Amigos is my home playing group, so we have a few house rules, like you don't roll D20 for initiative, we roll 3D6. If we're playing D&D. I think when we were playing D&D I created that one. And there's another one for percentile rolls. There are a couple more actually. I can't remember what the one was, the top one for JNOV was. But this was another one for JNOV's percentile one. If you roll less than half of the number you required in a percentile game, then it gives you a heroic success. And if you rolled less than 25% of what you needed, then it gives you a legendary success. It doesn't have a game effect, but it shows that up in the chat result, the chat card for the roll, so you know, I need to treat this as a legendary success. So if you are interested in using those house rules and want to know more about those, then by all means check that box. Alright, those are all of the system settings that you can use. By the way, remember I had changed the assign status effects to Foundry default. Let's get in closer, and that's what those are. The Foundry default effects. The GM can access them here. And there is a way to configure your own set that actually do things, or you can augment the ones that exist with actual effects, but that's for a later video. Thank you all for paying attention, and please let me know if there's anything about this that you didn't understand, so I should make a different video.